Welcome, dear friends, to Cardiac Radio at 11 p.m., nourishing our souls with one more Spirit of Truth. Spirit of Truth is this book published by the mediums Chico, Xavier, and Waldo Vieira in Brazil in 1961 and coming to life in English here at Cardiac Radio today. Every day, it's been 28, 27 days that we've been together. This book, titled The Spirit of Truth, is so meaningful because several spirits from Bezerra de Menezes, Eurípides Barçanufo, Emmanuel, Anália Franco, Meimei, André Luiz, they come to recall passages from the Gospel according to Spiritism by Allan Kardec and to extend its understanding. You may be asking, Spirit of Truth? Yes, in Spiritism. We know that the coming of Spiritism is the promised consoler by Jesus. The Spirit of Truth is Jesus, yes, Jesus, who uses a teamwork effort to come to us and set us free. What does make us feel the suffering of life? Not knowing, not understanding, right? The unknown, it's so difficult. But when Spiritism comes, everything is clarified. There's no mystery anymore. Our relationships are clarified in the view of Spiritism. Nothing is by chance. And today, talking about relationships, a spirit came through the hands of these mediums, Chico, Xavier, and Waldo Vieira, and told us a very, very, very particular letter. It's a letter from a father to a son. In this book, there are stories, and this is one of them. And the spirit doesn't reveal his name, he just signs J. But we're going to tell you about the story. And it all begins in chapter 14, item 9 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, when you open chapter 14, it's titled Honor Your Father and Your Mother. Item 9 is a masterpiece because this item 9 is like a thesis written by St. Augustine in 1862. And St. Augustine comes to us to tell us about the ingratitude of children and family ties. Yes, we need to understand why these things happen. But there's a moment in the Gospel according to Spiritism that St. Augustine says, all Spiritists, you must understand humankind's grand role. You must understand that when you produce a body, the soul who incarnates in it has come from the spirit world in order to progress. Know your duties and put all your love in leading that soul to God. This is the mission that has been entrusted to you, and for which you will receive recompense if you faithfully fulfill it. The care and education you give it will help in its self-improvement and future well-being. Friends, today it's a conversation about family. Today it's a conversation about parents and children and our relationships with our parents as well. This father who wrote through the mediums 60 years ago tell us a very dramatic and moving story. Are you ready? Yes? Today it's storytelling time. Yes, and it begins when the spirit named J says in a letter to his son, "My son, I write this letter to let you know that I am alive, that I am alive. When you handed me the poisoned cup that killed my existence, we were not thinking about it. Neither you nor I. The idea of death wandered away from me because I expected from your hands just the numbing medicine for my migraine. I understood everything, however, when you, upset, suddenly closed the door and coldly exclaimed, "Die, old man." The convulsions that took me off hand traumatized my head. It was as if a sharp razor could cut my viscera in a brazier of pain. I was still able, however, to gather the strength in supreme anxiety and contemplate you before my eyes. Your words kept ringing in my ears. Die, old man. Ah, it was everything that you, in your altered, unrecognizable state, had to say. But my to you was the same. I went back to the night when I caressed you for the first time. Your mother slept exhausted. Tiny and tender, against my chest, I felt in you my own heart wailing in my hands, in my arms, and the memories flowed in succession. You, like a happy bird that took shelter in my lap, the photo album in which your image showed gradual development in all positions. Birthday parties, colorful cakes decorated with candles that your tiny lips always extinguished in an explosion of joy. I remembered our old home, humble and poor at first. Then my sweat had turned into wide, rich, abundant housing. In agony, I remembered incidents since long forgotten, in which I watched myself expelling young and ragged children from the big sunroom so that our home was just yours. I found myself working as a sweat animal so that the facilities of the world would serve our illusions and whims. In all the details I revived in my memory, it was you, the great sovereign of our little world. Let's pay attention to this. You were the sovereign of our little world. The past continued to unfold inside of me, and I revived our struggle for books to change your mind. The useless effort for the youth to be erected on a noble foundation to the future. Back to the old concerns that plagued me, I noted again the continuous extravagances, the drinks, the parties, pleasures, inadvisable companies, constant insubordination, the luxury car, with which I presented it in an unfortunate moment. Son of my heart, all of this I reviewed. I have I had given you all the money I've managed to earn, and you wanted more. In the agony of death, I saw you, still anxious, with your anxious hands snatching from me the key ring to steal your mother's last jewels. I saw perfectly when you stuffed the money, which was kept out from our bank account. And because I couldn't hate you, I prayed. Perhaps with the fervor and sincerity that I've never had, praying to God to bless you and bless us, and understand belatedly that the true happiness of our children lies first of all in the work and education with which we will honor their lives. This letter is not to accuse you. It was never in my mind the idea of announcing your name. You continue, blood of my blood, heart of my heart. I have often heard that there are criminal children, but today I understand that in most circumstances there are delinquent parents with them for believing much more in the strength of wealth than in the wealth of the spirit, drowning them from an early age into the shadows of laziness and in the vice of ingratitude. I do not come to say it only to you, because your mistake is my mistake too. I also speak to other parents, my companions of hope, so that they may work against the demon of unnecessary gold. Because all unnecessary gold, when not seeking the charity advice, is temptation to madness. Some say that only mothers know how to love. And in reality, the maternal lap is a blessing from heaven. But my son, fathers love as well. And because I love you so much, I address you the present message, affirming to you that I am in prayer so that our mistake finds help and tolerance in the courts of divine justice, to which I beg someday the happiness of having you again by my side for a living portrait of my affection. So we both, together, in the path directed to work in the good, will learn finally how to serve the world, serving God. Dramatic. This is a reality in our daily lives. A father killed by his own son. But why? Why that ingratitude? Where did that come from? This man did not create a criminal, but he supported and enabled a criminal soul. You and I are being invited by the Spirit of Truth to revisit the main mission on earth, parenting. St. Augustine says here, and it's good for grandparents, educators, and everybody to know that the mission of all missions is parenting, and whatever we do to support people who are parents and their children, we are partaking that mission as well. And here, St. Augustine says in the Gospel according to Spiritism, parents, know your duties and put all your love in leading that soul to God. So, our goal as parents is to lead that soul to God. But then the baby is born, and we go to the stores, we shop online. Everything's so pink or blue or yellow, however the colors. But then we start doing baby showers as if it's a doll, right? See people like they get to know their parent, they start the journey. Baby showers and this, that, and the other. Well, better than those who think of abortion for sure, because abortion is a no-no. And better than those, of course, who know they are pregnant yet they don't understand the importance. But going from one extreme to the next, the extreme of this father who worked and treated his son. Now, this is the key of this message. He said, in all the details that I revive in my memory, it was you, the great sovereign of our little world. Yes, our families are important, but our little world. I can't live my life only for my family, and especially putting our children as God, as the center, as the sovereigns of our lives. But that's what many people do. They have a child, they stop going to the Spiritist Center. They stop doing charitable work because, oh, I can't, I don't have time. But then when your children get sick, where do you go? You knock on Spirit Center's doors and ask for help. So others have to think of the universal family while we keep our selfishness and think that our little world so important that our children are like new princes and princesses. Princes and princesses. No. If we don't put God as center stage in our lives, we're not going to lead that soul to God. And then what we'll be doing? He said, we will create them thinking that wealth is the center stage, not the wealth of the spirit, the strength of wealth. And from an early age, pushing them into laziness and ingratitude. Now, let's think together. Everything is habit. I remember Mentor Joseph explaining to us there was a family, they had some money, they had a very comfortable condition. And when the child was like 4 years of age, they had to move to a new house, change some scenarios. And one day the parents were wondering, why has everything changed so badly? The good spirit said, for several reasons, but mostly because you can't raise this child believing that life is what you had. You need something smaller, more moderate, for this child to understand that life is not about the strength of the wealth, but the wealth of the spirit. Yes, in the words of the text. Or we're going to push this child to laziness and later ingratitude when they receive everything. So, what is the secret here? He says the true happiness of our children, he understood praying to God, lies, first of all, in work and education. So, I see many parents nowadays who spend their days worried about, oh my gosh, I need to entertain my child. I need to make the life of my child much easier. Oh, poor child. During the pandemic, they can't play date. They can't do this. Excuse me? Are they reincarnated to be in a playground? But Vanessa, they're children. No, but childhood, there's nothing in the books by Spiritism telling us, let your child enjoy childhood. Never. Never. But Vanessa, what do you mean? No, they have to be educated. Isn't playtime a form of educating? It depends. If you let your children lose and they are just doing things without a direction, no. We're not discussing educational methods. But for example, let's say a child goes to the bedroom and starts painting the walls. We need to sit down with the kid and say, okay, what was your thought? I was just having fun. Okay, let me ask you, is this constructive or destructive? What is this bringing us to? Oh, Vanessa, is that repression? No, we're educating the immortal spirit. Okay, so what do you want? You want to paint? Here's a paper. Okay, here's a board. But the wall is to protect us, but we need harmony in the house. There are limits and boundaries. How do we teach people that there are boundaries so they don't, again, do the outrageous, aggressive, violent move of entering a sacred governmental building like the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and destroy things. Those people, for sure, were not educated in their homes. Because since an early age, you teach them when you enter somebody's office, you don't touch anything because it's not yours. You need to respect. Those people did not learn it. Because no matter if people are stealing an election or not, you don't steal from them. You don't hurt them. That's not how we resolve things. We're talking about a social event showing to us that the failure is at ground zero here, family foundation. We teach our children to respect people's things. We teach our children to respect people's bodies, do not hurt them. When we see a child, a teenager, getting a gun, entering schools and shooting people, we always ask, where are their parents? Because it is impossible for a family of loving parents who educate their children well towards God to have a child killing people. That's why this parent, Jay, today is saying that he's much a criminal as his son. I have often heard, he says, that there are criminal children, but today I understand that in most circumstances there are delinquent parents with them for believing much more in the strength of wealth than in the wealth of the spirit, drowning them from an early age in the shadows of laziness and vice of ingratitude. Today I received a video from a friend, and this video showed a girl in Brazil, in the northeast of Brazil, very poor city. A 12-year-old girl, she teaching. She created a small room, School of Hope, she named, where she is teaching other kids while the parents are getting stuff into the main garbage of the city. And she says she's happy. Unbelievable. And we think that overprotecting our children in their illusory childhood, the Disneyland, we're going to help them. And then we're creating criminal children. They may not be criminal killing a parent or somebody else physically, but they'll be stealing in their companies, lying in their political lives, manipulating people, creating a mess not only for themselves, not only for a household, not only for a community, but sometimes for a whole nation. When we see criminal children, we need to look for the parents and see that those parents enabled those criminal children. Why? Pride. When we transform our children, into the center of our lives, we are making the strongest mistake. Why? Because God is the center. And we and our children are together, walking together around God. Remember when Virginia was little? She didn't know much about shopping. She was like 2 years old, 3 years old. And we were in a big department store. She saw something. Mentor Joseph taught us, before you buy something, ask God, if that's appropriate. Because the money that gets to our hands comes from God, not from our sweat, from the concession of God. And is it only to be spent in our child? Or are we supposed to spend also with other people's children? So then we got into the habit back then of buying something for Virginia and something for somebody else, something for Virginia and something for friends of hers. It's always like this, giving to her and friends, her and other people in shelters, other people in need. Always, always. It's a practice we began when Virginia was actually in the womb, always visiting mothers who were pregnant and relaying a hand to those who can't, knowing that we can't only spend with ourselves. So today, you and I are being called for several reasons to revisit our parenting skills. Yes, but not only that, as humans, whether parents, educators, or not, you and I are being asked by the Spirit of Truth through Jay's message to serve God, serving the world. So we're going to find somebody to help out. It could be a piece of bread, clothes, something. But we're going to bring, if we have children, grandchildren, with them. And find somebody who needs and say, we need to help people. That's why God asked us to reincarnate, because he wants our help. That's the exercise we're going to do. Because Jay says here, I want to reincarnate again, have you as my son, my child. And side by side, we will work again in the path to work and the good and learn to serve God through serving the world. You and I are being asked to serve the world. If you have children, grandchildren, bring them, take them in your car, find somebody and say, let's give it to this person. Use masks, hand sanitizers, sure, social distancing, but let us spend some time for all of us to understand that the center of our lives is God and only God, not our children, not ourselves, not anybody else, but God and only God. This is it for today, friends. Let us rejoice with this message and thank God for this deep explanation and the reminder of the Spirit of Truth. Thank you, friends. And God willing, we'll be back tomorrow here at 11 p.m.